And I ain't got worried about nothing. Put my hands up. Yeah, yeah, we gon' jump. It ain't real time. I can't. We gon' jump. It ain't real time. And I don't care if it's watching. Yeah, I feel it ain't real. Yeah, I can't bear. I see you over there. With side eyes and it's no face. No face. Look like you're about to cry with your story. Don't be holding back your tears. Don't be phoning.
Shalom, shalom.
People walking right past you, singing like we did in the bayou. Okay. But she wasn't taken out the way. Old man gone away. Let the new man manifest today. Say it again. Old man gone away. Let the new man manifest today. We gon' jump. We gon' jump.
Yeah, this is how to start off on Wednesday morning. Shalom, shalom, y'all. You know, things are a little crazy out there in the world today, but we gotta put our faith in the Most High. It's a great study today, I'm telling you.
Like a set of cables, we jumping. Put it on a shoe, now we jumping. At the game of double dutch jumping. Led by the Ruach, no stunting. We used to catch a stone to the face. Now a stone might cry.
This is Lord Vince, by the way.
Those are the breaks.
All the songs credits will be
hold on. We jumped there, no times in the club. There's a plug. We jumped for Zion. Sticks in the mud, the branches fell off. So Mashiach paid the full cost.
Hey.
We gon' jump. We gon' jump. And I ain't got worried about nothing. And I ain't ashamed to throw my hands up. Yeah, yeah, we gon' jump. It ain't real time. I can't. We gon' jump. It ain't real time. And I don't care if it's watching. Y'all watching.
Decent, unleaded, better fill on up. Like JB, better fill on up. Old bones and the goons, if for real, but they hit on up. No time but to build on up.
On the framework.
Yeah, you know what make the framework.
Shalom, 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 everybody. Welcome to the House of B'Nei Ysrayl, where the children of Most High dwell. We know who we are. We know who He made us to be. And we're rising from the ashes. Welcome back to Bible Talk. It's your boy, Yosef ben Ysrayl, AKA Minista Whisper-We're. We're on the book of Jasher, chapter 15. So grab your books, sit back, get comfy, and let's talk. Okay, we are on the book of Jasher. We are in the book of Jasher. If you're just joining us for the first time, we're in the book of Jasher. Chapter 15, verse 1. Let's read. And in that year, there was a severe scarcity of food. A severe scarcity of food throughout the land of Canaan, and the inhabitants of the land could not remain because of the scarcity of food, for it was very grievous. And Abram and all belonging to him rose and went down to Mitzrayim because of the scarcity of food. And when they were all at the Wadi of Mitzrayim, they remained there some time to rest from the fatigue of their journey. So all through the scriptures, in Egypt is the way to go. Egypt is the go-to place, shall I say, when something is going wrong. All throughout the scripture, we see that everybody's going to Egypt. We also see this very reference in Genesis 12:10. Now, there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine was severe. In Genesis 26, Isaac was heading to Egypt due to a famine, but the Most High told him to stay in Gerar instead. You can read this for yourself. In Genesis 46, Jacob was headed there as well. It says, so Israel set out with all that was his. And when he reached Beersheba, he offered sacrifice to the Elohim of his father Isaac. And Yah spoke to Israel in a vision at night and said, Jacob, Jacob, here I am. He replied, I am Yah, the Elohim of your father, he said. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. Now just watch how this plays out. Okay, and this continues all the way through up to the birth of Yeshua. That's a whole nother story, but let's continue. And Abram and Sarai were walking at the border of the Wadi of Mitzrayim, and Abram saw his wife Sarai, that she was very good looking. And Abram said to his wife Sarai, since Elohim has created you with such a good looking appearance, I am afraid of the Mitzrayites or the Egyptians, lest they should slay me and take you away, for the fear of Elohim is not in these places. Abram, one of the most intelligent, watch this, y'all. Abram, one of the most intelligent men of his time. He's walking, he's thinking, he's pondering, and he sees his wife, who is beautiful, has aged well. She looked nothing like these women you see on these Bible movies. All the women on these Bible movies are always dirty, face dirty, clothes dirty, looking rough, looking how you say, ghetto maybe, but that's not how the Bible describes them. That's not how the Bible describes Sarah. Sarah was said to be beautiful, and Abram was thinking ahead of the game. He was thinking ahead of the game. Now watch how the story unfolds. He knew he was about to go into a pagan land where they had no problem taking what they wanted. But let's see how this unfolds. Let's see how this unfolds. Verse 5. Indeed, when you shall do this, say you are my sister to all that may ask you, in order that it may be well with you, or in order that it may be well with me, and that we may live and not be put to death. Now, mind you, certain people have a problem with the book of Jasher, but you can certainly see the references and go back to Genesis and see the similarities in the same story. But I'm going to go there as well. Verse 6, and Abram, let's go back to verse 5. Indeed, then you shall do this. Say you are my sister to all that may ask you, in order that it may be well with me, and that we may live and not be put to death. He said, you're my sister so that they don't kill me. Say you're my sister so that they don't kill me. And not only take you, but take everything we have, everything we built, everything we labor for, everything Yah gave us. Abraham is saying, I'm going to need all. Okay, say you're my sister. Speak this word so that I don't see death. And Abram commanded the same to all those that came with him to Mizraim because of the scarcity of food. Also, his nephew Lot, he commanded, saying, if the Mizraimites ask you concerning Sarai, say she is the sister of Abram. Not only do I need, hallelujah, I see your texts. Not only do I need Sarah to say this, but I'm going to need to ensure this lie works and I don't get killed. I'm going to need everybody to say it. I'm going to need everybody to say it. Even you, Lot. I know you and your wife don't be paying attention sometimes. These Egyptians aren't anything but thorough. And do you see my wife? She's beautiful. She's glamorous. She's amazing. Do you see Sarah? Do you see how Sarah looks? Do you see Sarah looking good, covered up? She's been doing her Pilates every day, walking the sheep. Sarah's looking good. Sarah's looking fine. Okay. All jokes aside, Abraham wanted to make sure that everybody was able to be fed during the famine. Okay. So in order for this to work, everybody had to be on one page. So he had the right perspective. But he should have sought Yah on that matter first. Okay, this is the first thing that we see wrong here. He didn't seek Yah on that matter first. Continuing on to verse 7. And yet with all these orders, Abram did not put confidence in them. With all these orders, Abram did not put confidence in them. But he took Sarai and placed her in a chest and concealed it among their goods. For Abram was greatly concerned about Sarai because of the wickedness of the Mitzrayites. Hallelujah. There are people in your life you can count on. You know what I'm saying? There are some people in your life that you can count on when it boils down to it. When the rubber meets the road, they're going to be riding with you, But then there's those people in your circle that you're like, these jokers might turn on me. These jokers might turn me in, might hang me out to dry to save their own skin. But to put your wife in a chest, Sarah had to be drop dead gorgeous. To have worried Abram that much that someone would kill you for your own wife, she had to be drop dead gorgeous. Okay, let's keep reading. And Abram and all belonging to, now watch how this story ties. This is a great story. I love the story. And Abram and all belonging to him rose up from the Wadi of Mizraim and came to Mizraim, and they had scarcely entered the gates of the city when the guard stood up to them, saying, "Give tithe to the king from what you have, and then you may come into the town." And Abram and those that were with him did so. They haven't even got into Egypt yet. And Abram, with the people that were with him, came to Mizraim, and when they came, they brought the chest in which Sarai was concealed, and the Mizraimites saw the chest. So even though they were trying to hide it, they still saw the chest. Okay, so Abraham's like, we made it through the gate, but wait, these thirsty, greedy Egyptians done seen the chest. They paying attention, they watching, and it's about to go down. Verse 10, and the king's servant approached Abram, saying, "What have you here in this chest, which we have not seen? Now open the chest and give tithe to the king of all that it contains." Hey, Abraham, what's in this chest, homie? We done checked all your bags, but we didn't see that one right there. Yeah, that big one, that big chest right there that you guarded. What you got in that basket? We want some of what's in there. It says, and Abram said, "This chest I will not open, but all you demand upon it I will give." And Pharaoh's officers answered Abram, saying, "It is a chest of precious stones. Give us the tenth of it." Once Abraham said, I'm not going to open it, it made them want to know even more what was in it. Everybody was always looking for ways to gain favor with the king, and whatever is in this chest might be what they're waiting for. Abram said, "All that you desire I will give, but you must not open the chest." But the king's officers pressed Abram, and they reached the chest and opened it with force. And they looked, and see a good-looking woman was in the chest. And when the officers of the king saw Sarai, watch this, when they saw Sarai, they were struck with admiration at her good looks. And all the princes and servants of the pharaohs assembled to see Sarai, for she was very good looking. And the king's officers ran and told the pharaoh all that they had seen, and they praised Sarai to the king. And Pharaoh ordered her to be brought, and the woman came before the king. You ever see something or someone so beautiful that you can't take your eyes off of it? You just keep staring, drool coming out of the corner of your mouth like you're about to bite into that piece of lamb at Passover. It says that they were struck with admiration, and all the people came to see her. Can you imagine how beautiful Sarah had to be? They came to see her like she was Elijah coming down on a chariot. Sarah was now the new kid on the block. She was the new kid at school. She was the star quarterback coming out of college, and all eyes were on her. Sarah was Miss Egypt, Miss Gerar, Miss Canaan. She put them all to shame. So much that the guards ran to tell the king, there is a beautiful woman that we just found in a chest. She just came into the land. Here was their golden lottery ticket. And they were about to cash in. Okay? This was their golden. This is what I was saying earlier. Whatever was in that chest was about to give them what they were seeking from the king for a long time. Okay? So much so that they ran. Okay? They dropped what they were doing and ran and told the king. Verse 15. And Pharaoh saw Sarai, and she pleased him exceedingly. And Pharaoh saw Sarai, and she pleased him exceedingly. And he was struck with her good looks. And the king rejoiced greatly for her sake, and bestowed presents on those who brought him the news concerning her. What I tell you, the king bestowed presents. Is that what it said? The king bestowed presents on those who brought him the news concerning Sarah. That's why them guards took off and ran to the king when they saw. They was like, look, the king's about to reward us for this one. It says, and the woman was then brought to Pharaoh's house, and Abram grieved for the sake of his wife. And he prayed to Yahweh to deliver her from the hands of Pharaoh. Now, what could have Abraham had done better? He could have gave it to Yahweh before going into Egypt. Rather than waiting until he's in Egypt to pray for deliverance. How many times have we done that? How many times have you ran into an issue head on, knowing you should have prayed first, but figured your wisdom would be enough to solve the equation, only to find out waiting was a bad move? How many times you told someone you would pray for them and you never prayed and the situation got worse? And then you decided to pray. The Bible calls for us to pray without ceasing. And Yeshua said, come to me, all who are burdened and heavy laden. And you may be saying, well, Abram didn't have the New Testament or the Brit HaKadoshah or Torah, but he had the word. He had the word. If you've been following us in this book of Jasher, you know that he grew up with Noah and Shem. He knew who to call on in his time of need. He had a personal relationship with the Most High. But this is common, isn't it? Even though we know who to call on, sometimes we wait and see if we can handle it ourselves. But here, Abraham needed help, and he needed it fast. Let's continue reading. Verse 17. And Sarai also prayed. Now watch this. Touch not my, and this is why I labeled this, touch not my anointed. Watch this. And Sarai also prayed at that time and said, oh, Yah Elohim, you told my master Abram to go from this land and from his father's house to the land of Canaan. And you promised to do well with him if he would perform your commands. Now see, we have done that which you commanded us, and we left our land and our clans, and we went to a strange land and to a people whom we have not known before. And we came to this land to avoid the scarcity of food and this evil accident has befallen me. Now, therefore, O Yah Elohim, deliver us and save us from the hand of this oppressor, and do well with me for the sake of your favor. Did you hear Sarah's prayer? It's right there laid out for you, everything she said. See, Sarah's now praying. Now watch this. Now, Sarah is now praying, bringing it back up to the Father, what he said. Isaiah 43:26 said, put me in remembrance. Let us plead together. Declare thou that thou mayest be justified. By his word. That you may be justified by his word. By what he said and promised you. For he is Elohim that can't lie. The first thing Sarah said to Yah is, what do we see? You told. She's bringing it back to him. She said, you told us to go from our land. Then she reminded him, you promised. Now, our promises aren't like the Most High promises. When he promises, you can best believe whatever he promised will come to pass. And then Sarah confirms their life. She confirms the way that they lived. She says, we have done We have done that which you commanded. You hear this? We have done. She is bringing everything back into his remembrance. We have done that which you commanded. In other words, Yah, we've been obedient to your word to do everything you asked of us. And now we need for you to keep your promise to us. There's nothing wrong with that. The Father says it. Bring it to remembrance. Bring it to remembrance. Verse 18. And he came to this land, and we came to this land to avoid the scarcity of food. And this evil accident has befallen me. Now, therefore, O Yah Elohim, deliver us and save us from the hand of the oppressor, and do well with me for the sake of your favor. For the sake of your favor. Sarah is saying we came to this land. Sarah is saying we came to this land to not only avoid the scarcity of food, but to also to avoid trouble. Watch this. We came to this land to not only avoid the scarcity of food, but to also avoid trouble. You see, they weren't broke. All right. If you've been following the story, they weren't broke. All right. Abraham had a lot. Okay. But just having money and little food will eventually cause trouble amongst those that live with you and around you. You then not only have to worry about those that are in your circle, but those that are near you and don't have anything, your neighbors, and are willing to take it by force. Okay. Today with this pandemic, we see people porch pirating, and if you don't know what that is, it's people stealing other people's packages off their porch. We see people hoarding. We see people angry simply because they don't have enough. But here, Sarah is in full agreement with her husband and screaming, "Oh, Yahweh Elohim, deliver us. Deliver us." Sarah is praying. We see this. Touch not my anointed. Keep following the story. Watch how it unfolds. Watch how it unfolds. Verse 19. And Yahweh listened to the voice of Sarai. And Yahweh listened to the voice of Sarai. And Yahweh listened to the voice of Sarai. And Yahweh sent a messenger to deliver Sarai from the power of Pharaoh. Now, this is powerful. This is powerful. Not only did the Father listen and react to Abraham's prayers, but he also listened to the voice of Sarai. Do you hear this? And sent help to deliver her. It says he sent a messenger. He sent a messenger to deliver her. He sent a messenger to deliver her. He sent a messenger to deliver her. I just wanted it to sink in. Sarai brought his promises to him in remembrance, and then reminded him that they was obeying his commands, and in turn had an expectation of his intervention. You understand? She reminded him and then had an expectation of his intervention. All right. If you're doing what the Father asked of you, you too can have an expectation of intervention in your life. If you have a relationship with the Most High, you can believe he will also send a messenger on your behalf. Let's continue. Verse 20, and the king came and sat before Sarai, and see, a messenger of Yah was standing over them. A messenger of Yah was standing over them. And he appeared to Sarai and said to her, "Do not fear. Do not fear, for Yah has heard your prayer." And the king approached Sarai and said to her, "What is that man to you who brought you here?" And she said, "He is my brother." Now watch this. She said, "He is my brother." Let's backtrack for a second. And the king came and sat before Sarai, and see, a messenger of Yah was standing over them. A messenger was standing over them, and the only one that could see him was Sarai. Do y'all hear this? A messenger was standing over them, and the only one that could see him was Sarai. He told her, "Do not fear. Do not fear, in other words. You're coming out of this. You're coming out of this. The Father knows and sees everything you and my servant Abraham has been doing. How everywhere he sends Abraham, he exalts him. How you're everywhere y'all go, y'all are obedient. How y'all are obedient to his word and love him. Do not fear. I am standing over you as a covering. So do not fear. I'm standing over you right now just to let you know you are covered. You're covered. And the king, verse 21, and the king approached. Hallelujah. And the king approached Sarai and said to her, what is that man to you who brought you here? And she said, he is my brother. Watch this, y'all. Watch this, y'all. Keep listening. And the king said, it is necessary for us to make him great. It is necessary for us to make him great, to exalt him, and to do to him all the good which you shall command us, which you shall command us. And at that time, the king sent to Abram silver and gold and precious stones in great amount, together with cattle, male servants, and female servants. And the king ordered Abram to be brought, and he sat in the court of the king's house. And the king greatly exalted Abram on that night. Wait, what? He just made Abraham richer before Sarai even spoke a word. Or did Sarai in her wisdom tell the king to give that to Abraham, knowing she was getting ready to be delivered? It's a good question. Or did the father not warn him for the sake of blessing him? Did the father not warn Abraham in the beginning before going into Egypt? Did I check this? For the sake of blessing him. Proverbs 13:22 says, the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. Watch this. The wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. Verse 23. And the king approached to speak to Sarai, and he reached out his hand to touch her when the messenger smote him heavily. Wait, hands off. You know, and he was afraid, and he refrained from reaching to her, like, what the heck just happened? And when the king came near to Sarai, the messenger smote him to the ground and did so to him the whole night. And the king was afraid. What the hell is going on here? Yes, I said hell. What in the world is going on here? And on that night, the messenger smote all the servants of the king and his whole household severely because of Sarai. And there was a great lamentation. There was a great cry that night amongst the people of Pharaoh's house. First Chronicles 16:22. First Chronicles 16:22 says, touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. The Father will come to battle for you. He will go against your enemies, and they will have to flee every different way. The messenger struck down the king's whole household just for Sarai. How much more will he do for you? How much more will he do for you? It said, and on the night the messenger smote all of the servants. He smote everybody in the household just for Sarai. Verse 27, and the king said to Sarai, please tell me concerning the man with whom you came here. And Sarai said, this man is my husband. This man is my husband. And I said to you that he was my brother, for I was afraid lest you should put him to death through wickedness. And the king kept away from Sarai, and the plagues of the messenger of Yah ceased from him and his household. Now the king is getting it. You know, he's getting it. I keep getting hit out of nowhere. Every time I try to touch this woman, you know, something happens, something bad happens to me. You know, something's not right here. You know, and it's got to do with this woman right here. So the king kept away from Sarai, and the plagues of the messengers of Yahweh ceased from him and his household. And Pharaoh knew that he was smitten because of Sarai. See what I'm saying? And the king was greatly astonished at this. Now keep going. Watch this. Watch this. And in the morning, the king called from Abram and said to him, "What is this you have done to me? Why did you say that she is my sister? Owing to which I took her to me for a wife, and therefore this heavy plague has come upon me in my household. Now, therefore, here is your wife. Take her and go from our land, lest we all die for her sake. Lest we all die for her sake. Lest we all die for her sake." And Pharaoh took more cattle. He gave him more blessings. You see this? And Pharaoh took more cattle, male servants and female servants, and silver and gold to give to Abram. And he returned Sarai his wife to him. Where else do we see this example? Because I know it's clicking. I know the wheels are turning in your head. Where else do we see this example? Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12. Verse 31 begins, "And he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, 'Rise up and get you forth from among my people. Rise up and get you forth from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go, serve Yahweh as you have said. Also take your flocks and your herds as you have said, and be gone and bless me also.' And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, 'We be all dead men.'" We be all dead men. Pharaoh just told him here, "Take your wife and go before we all be dead, before we all die." Back to verse 33, and it says, all the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, "We be all dead men." And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they borrowed all the Egyptian jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. Here, Israel is the bride, the wife that is leaving out of Egypt. In this book of Jasher, we see the bride, Sarai, leaving out of Egypt. Here, Israel is the bride, the wife that is leaving out of Egypt. They are the seed of Abraham. Little did they know that the same story of their great-grandfather would play out with them. Revelation 19 said this, "Let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife hath made herself ready. And to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen is the righteousness of saints. And he said unto me, Right, blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he saith unto me, These are the true sayings of Yah. Israel and those engrafted into the body are the bride." Israel and those engrafted into the body are the bride. Let's continue. And the king took a maiden whom he brought, verse 31, and the king took a maiden whom he brought forth by his concubines, and he gave her to Sarai for a female servant. Now watch how this ties in. And the king said to his daughter, so this maiden was his daughter, watch this. And the king said to his daughter, "It is better for you, my daughter, to be a female servant in this man's house, than to be mistress in my house, after we have seen the evil that befell us before because of this woman." And Abram rose, and he and all belonging to him went away from Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh ordered some of his men to accompany him, and all that went with him. So the king gave Sarai one of his daughters. Yeah, hear this. So the king gave Sarai one of his daughters from one of his concubines, which would have made her a princess. Are you following? Which would have made her a princess. And I know the wheels are turning again, and it's clicking because I know you read this story similar in the book of Genesis. So the king gave Sarai one of his daughters from one of his concubines, which would have made her a princess. Who do you think this could be? Let's look at Genesis chapter 16. Genesis chapter 16. Now, Sarai, Abram's wife, bore him no children. And she had a handmaid, you hear this, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold now, Yahweh hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go into my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband, Abram, to be his wife. You believe, listen, you better believe if Sarai was going to give any woman to her husband, Sarai, the one who was stuck in the chest, Sarai, who had to be hidden in Egypt, Sarai, who people were running to come see, this beautiful woman, you better believe if she gave any woman to Abraham, she had better been royalty. I'm telling you, if Sarai was going to give any woman to her husband, she had better been royalty. You understand me? All right. We all know the story, right? We all know the story of Ishmael and Isaac after. All right. The Egyptians of those days were of a dark-skinned nature. So they were Hamites. Which means hot or burnt. The majority of Hamites are what we would call today Africans. So Abraham the Shemite, had a Hebrew wife and a Hamite wife. He had Sarah and he had Hagar. We know he married Hagar because we see it in the scriptures. Okay, he had a Hebrew wife, he had a Hamite wife because he also married Hagar according to custom. Genesis 16:3 alludes to this very thing. It says, and Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. Where did they go after they left Egypt when the Pharaoh just kicked them out, put them out, told them to get out? They went to Canaan. They went right back to Canaan. So this is right after. Okay. So after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan and gave her to her husband, Abram, to be his wife. This is what it says in Genesis 16:3. Sarah was blessed. Hallelujah. Yes. After Abraham had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan and gave her to her husband, Abram, to be his wife. So Ishmael was basically mixed. And he and his mother Hagar went back to Egypt. His mother Hagar went back to Egypt. She went back to Egypt to find him a wife. Okay, it says this in there. Hagar went back to Egypt when Ishmael was of age to find him a wife. So his first wife was African as well. But that's a whole nother story. Let's continue on. And the king said to his daughter, it is better for you, my daughter, to be a female servant in this man's house than to be mistress in my house, after we have seen the evil that befell us because of this woman. You're right. Sarah was blessed. And Abram rose, and he and all belonging to him went away from Mitzrayim. And Abram arose, and he and all belonging to him went away from Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh ordered some of his men to accompany him, and all that went with him. Pharaoh wanted to make sure, listen, y'all, Pharaoh wanted to make sure nothing happened to them on the way out of Egypt. You hear what I'm saying? Pharaoh wanted to make sure nothing happened to them on the way out of Egypt. It's the same way for your life. On your way out of Egypt, the Father is going to make sure that you are covered. Especially after blessing you while you're in Egypt. He's going to make sure you're covered on your way out. And Pharaoh ordered some of his men to accompany him. And Pharaoh ordered some of his men to accompany him and all that went with him. And Abram returned to the land of Canaan. Do you see this? And Abram returned to the land of Canaan. And Abram returned to the land of Canaan. Okay? To the place where he had made the altar, where he at first had pitched his tent. And Lot, son of Haran, Abram's brother, had a numerous stock of cattle, flocks, and herds and tents, but Yahweh was good to them because of Abram. Listen, 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, be not deceived. Bad company destroys good character. Bad company destroys good character. So watch what happens. Sometimes all it takes is for you to be around those doing the right thing in the eyes of the Most High, to have some of that favor rub off on you. But you, of course, have to be following according to the word as well. It said, and Lot, son of Haran, Abram's brother, had a numerous stock. He had numerous stock. He was blessed of cattle, flocks, and herds and tents. For Yah was good to them because of Abram. You are a seed of Abram. The Most High will be good to you because of Abram if you are following his word. Let's continue to read. It says, and when Abram was dwelling in the land, now watch this. Sometimes we can do I just got to say it like this. Sometimes we can do stupid things. Okay. Sometimes we get puffed up, we get high-minded, and we do things that completely go against the word of the Most High and proper judgment. It says, and when Abram was dwelling in the land, the herdsmen of Lot quarreled with the herdsmen of Abram, for their property was too great for them to remain together in the land, and the land could not bear them because of their cattle. They had a lot of cattle. They had a lot of property. They were rich. Abraham already had accumulated a lot when he came into Egypt, and then the Pharaoh blessed him twice. You know, he blessed him in Egypt, then he blessed him before he left Egypt. So they were running over, basically. It says, and when Abram's herdsmen went to feed their flock, they would not go into the fields of the people of the land. But the cattle of Lot's herdsmen did otherwise, for they were sent to feed in the fields of the people of the land. And the people of the land saw this occurrence daily. And they came to Abram and quarreled with him because of Lot's herdsmen. And Abram said to Lot, what is this you are doing to me, to make me despicable to the inhabitants of the land, that you ordered your herdsmen to feed your cattle in the fields of other people? Do you not know that I am a stranger in this land among the children of Canaan? And why would you do this to me? One day I had a conversation with a gentleman. He was concerned about something I post, right? So we were talking about it, whatever, and then he got mad. I proved my point. He got mad, called me a Canaanite. So I said, well, I'm not a Canaanite. I'm a Shemite, but I appreciate you acknowledging that the Canaanites were of a dark skin persuasion. Okay, so here you see Abram had been to Canaan a few times. Okay, this wasn't Abraham's first time in Canaan. Abraham had been to Canaan a few times. The people knew who he was, but sometimes there are those that are with you that can cause you to be despised because of their own actions, not because of your actions, but because of their own actions. Okay, Abraham had to check his nephew because he had favor amongst the people. Abraham had to check his nephew because he had favor amongst the people, and it was wrong what Lot was doing. He was taking advantage of the people due to who Abraham was. He was taking advantage of people due to who Abraham was. Verse 40 goes on to say, and Abram quarreled daily with Lot because of this, but Lot would not listen to Abram, and he continued to do the same. And the inhabitants of the land came and told Abram. They came and told him. They didn't want to fight with Abram because they knew who Abram was. Abram had dwelt with them almost 10 to 15 years before that. So they knew who Abram was. It says, and Abram said to Lot, how long will you be for a stumbling block to me with the inhabitants of the land? How long will you cause drama between me and these people? You know? Now, please, let there be no more quarreling between us, for we are kinsmen. In other words, Lot. Come on, Lot. I'm tired of these people coming to me every day because you won't stay out their yard. You know what I'm saying? In other words, you won't stay out their yard. Stay out their yard, Lot. Stop going into their yard. You know, you're hard-headed. You're hard-headed, and you're messing up my name. You know what I'm saying? You're messing up my name with the people. Okay? I hate having to get on you because we're family. I hate having to get on you. I hate having to check you because we're family. But this whole entire issue is giving me a migraine. It's giving me a headache. Okay, these people, they coming to me every day. They screaming, they yelling because you won't keep your flocks out their yard. Watch what happens. But please separate from me. Go and choose a place where you may dwell with your cattle and all belonging to you. But keep yourself at a distance from me, you and your household. And do not be afraid in going from me, for if anyone does injury to you, let me know and I will avenge you, because from him only remove from me. I will avenge your cause. I will avenge your cause from him, only remove from me. Look, Lot, I'm gonna need you to just go away for a little while. You know, spread out some. You know, give us some space. You know, you're still my nephew. I still love you. You know what I'm saying? If somebody comes to attack you or whatever, I got your back. You know, but I just need you. You're causing too much drama here. You won't stay out these people's yard. So I'm just gonna need you to move out a little further. He says, and when Abram, he said, and do not be afraid in going from me, for if anyone does injury to you, let me know and I will avenge your cause. Okay, and when Abram had spoken all these words to Lot, then Lot arose and lifted his eyes toward the plain of Jordan, and he saw that the whole of the place was well watered and good for men, as well as affording pasture for the cattle. And Lot went from Abram to that place, and he pitched his tent there, and he dwelt in Sodom, and there separated from each other. And Abram dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and he pitched his tent there, and Abram remained in that place many years. Abram dwelt in the plains of Mamre. A plain is a large area of flat land with few trees, usually considered the coastal plain. Abraham wanted to be separated. When Abraham first moved to Canaan, he was living in the city, basically. He was living in the middle amongst the people. But when he came back to Canaan, he stayed on the outskirts. He stayed in the countryside. He stayed in the back parts of Canaan. And mainly understandable so because he had so much flock, you know. And then it probably was easier for him to go and sacrifice unto the Most High. Hallelujah. So in closing, this was a great story as well as an example, okay, or of why we need to take everything to the Father in prayer, why we need to be obedient to his word and obey his commandments. The Father placed a messenger over Sarai, and he will do the same for you. He'll do the same for you. Get rid of the ways of the world and follow the Most High with all your heart. If you're expecting to come out of Egypt with wealth and riches, then you need to know the Elohim who will cover you and cause man to bless you. Psalms 34:10 says this: those who seek Yahweh lack no good thing. Those who seek Yahweh lack no good thing. This is your boy House of B'Nei Ysrayl for House of B'Nei Ysrayl, where the chosen of Most High dwell. We know who we are. We know who He made us to be, and we are rising from the ashes. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, friend us on Facebook and Instagram. Join us on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. for Shabbat study. Go to www.yhwhforever3.com. That's www.yhwhforever3.com. Support the store. There's some great things there for you and your family. Well, this is another Wednesday's study, the book of Jasher. We are reading the book of Jasher. The book of Jasher. If you don't have it, make sure you get it. It's an excellent read. It ties in to the scriptures. It was mentioned in the scriptures, so therefore I believe that we should read it. Okay? Shalom, shalom. May the Father cover you. May the Father keep you. May the Father cause His face to shine upon you. Until we see each other again. Shalom, shalom.
We gon' jump, and I got hurt by nothing, and I ain't ashamed to throw my hands up. Yeah, yeah, we gon' jump, we gon' jump, and I don't care what is watching. Y'all want nothing, yeah,
Jump, like a set of cables, we jumping. Put it on a shoe, now we jumping. Like a game of double dutch, jumping. Led by the Ruach, no stunting. To catch a stone to the face. Now a stone might cry in your place. Man, those are the breaks. You deep with Christ on that case. Hey, hold on. We jumped in old times in the club. Here's a plug. We jumped for Zion. Sticks in the mud, the branches fell off. So Mashiach paid the full cost.
Hey, we gon' jump, and I got hurt by nothing, and I ain't ashamed to throw my hands up. Yeah, yeah, we gon' jump. We gon' jump, and I don't care what is watching. Y'all want nothing,
Teach the unleaded better fill on up. Like JB better get on up. Old bones in the